Today I'm looking at the Saers Guitar A90 classical guitar. This is from their Artist series, and this is an instrument that I've been very interested in taking a look at because it includes all the features and specs that I look for in a high-end instrument. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'll just give you a lowdown of the features and specs of the instrument itself. And then what I'll do is I'll show you some photos so you can see more up-close photos of the instrument without any glare from lights and things like that. I'll play some music and some technique examples on the instrument so you can hear it. And then I'll have a more in-depth discussion about the features of the instrument, more thoughts about what I think about the instrument itself and the value of the instrument. Make sure you check out the full article and review on the website. There's a link for that in the description that will have high quality photos of the instrument and also the text outlining all the features of the instrument as well. It will also have links to where you can learn more about Saers Guitar and also where you might be able to purchase one. So let's have a quick look at the features of this instrument. So it's a lattice brace guitar, that's the bracing, and it has a French polish top, which is a type of polish that is usually associated with high-end instruments. So just on the top of the instrument, it has French polish. It's usually thought that a French polish is going to, even though it's maybe a little bit more fragile, it's very beautiful, and it also can really help with the sound of the sound production of the soundboard. It comes in either a solid cedar or solid spruce top. This is the cedar. Solid Indian rosewood back and sides. Here we have a true raised fingerboard. So you can see the body of the guitar slopes down to raise that fingerboard for easy access to upper frets. This is a feature that I absolutely love in my instrument, and I'm so happy to see it here done properly. You might have seen past reviews I've done of other instruments with raised fingerboards, such as the Cordoba C12, which just didn't raise it enough. This one is raised as much as my instrument, so it's really quite effective and useful. And I love raised fingerboards. I'll never go back. It has a 12-hole bridge, which is also included on most high-end guitars these days. I love the 12-hole bridge. It's just cleaner, and I think it even helps with sound production a little bit. Ebony fingerboard, high C. I definitely always want a high C on my instrument. Just because it's starting to appear on most high-end instruments and in some of the repertoire. African mahogany neck, and it comes with a hard shell case. So a lot of features that you would associate with like a single luthier made high-end expensive instrument. And here we have it in the Saers guitar. And now let's take a look at some photos, and I'll just kind of talk about the specs as we look at the photos. So here are the photos of the instrument. This is the front of the guitar. Here's a view of the back, the Indian rosewood. Another view of the back of the guitar, really pretty grains in the wood there. Here's a side view of the instrument, a little bit of the top. You can see a bit of the raised fingerboard there. This is kind of more of a view of the rosette and some of the finishing. There's a better picture of the raised fingerboard, so you can see how the body of the guitar slopes down, which gives you easier access up the neck. There's another view of the raised fingerboard, a little bit of a shadow on this one, but you get the idea that the top is sloping down there, so you can get that sense of an elevated fingerboard. Here's the tuners. Quite pretty, actually. I really like the tuners, and they work quite well. View of the headstock. Here's a picture of the guitar, and there's the 12-hole bridge. It's a really nice, clean tie block. And some of the finishing around the edge of the top there. And there's the hard shell case that it came in. Just keep in mind that we're in a very small room here, so the acoustics aren't ideal. Also, by the time the sound goes into my microphones and my interface and my computer, gets processed, goes into your computer, out of your speakers, it might not be the most accurate sound. However, I hope it gives you some kind of idea. So you've seen the instrument now and you've heard it a little bit. Now let's talk about the different aspects of the instrument as well as its value. I'll list the price in the description. That way it's not hard-coded into the video because a suggested manufacturer's price might change. So I'll put that in the description for you and on the full review. When we talk about whether we like a guitar or whether I think a guitar is good or not, it's a very subjective thing. You know, one person might like a guitar, another person might not. But when it comes to value, it's a little bit easier because we can really take a look at the features and the performance of the instrument and just say whether it's a good value for the money or not. So in this particular case, I would say yes, the value is good for your money because you're getting all of these features. You're also getting an instrument that is quite responsive and has a high degree of playability, as well as good workmanship. So those things combined mean good value. I think my favorite thing about the instrument is the responsiveness of the guitar. So what I'm saying in that regard is that with a minimal amount of effort in this hand, I can produce a lot of sound. So small amount of effort means lots of sound. And this is a characteristic that I think is very common today in double top guitars and lattice guitars and also fan brace guitars as well. But certainly, like, the popularity of double tops is in part due to their volume and ease of sound production and responsiveness, which can help with your playing sometimes. I even notice on this guitar, like, any kind of slurs, they're popping out and they're nice and loud and they're just easy to do. And I don't have to push hard in this hand to produce the sound that I want. So that responsiveness is really great. So one thing I often do when I take a look at responsiveness is I'll just do like a little exercise where I'll play an arpeggio, but I'll practice bringing out just individual notes within the arpeggio. So I'll bring out like the thumb. Then I'll bring out the I finger. Then I'll bring out the M finger. Bring out the A finger. Now, part of this is the player. I mean, your ability to bring out one finger more than the other, to reduce the volume of some voices to bring out another one. But I always do that with every guitar that I try out just because I want to see how easy it is to do that. And like I said, I think one of the strengths of this instrument is the ability to be able to bring out those notes with quite amount of ease. I can really make one of the notes pop out of the texture. So it works with my technique well in that regard. And I like instruments that you can really bring out a particular note. So a very high marks in that regard on the playability and the tone. And I think that it makes the whole instrument feel easy to play. When I'm playing it, and I was playing through my repertoire this week, I was really finding like, yeah, it's easy to get stuff out of this guitar. So I would put that way high up on the marks for this instrument. Also, workmanship. The guitar looks beautiful and lots of excellent finishing details to the instrument. So in terms of workmanship, it's just beautiful and it's well finished and it's all very clean and looks sturdy. It has a truss rod, which I think is generally good in instruments. Various people have various different things to say about that. My high-end instrument does not have a truss rod. Most don't. But I think, in general, I think truss rods are helpful to keep that neck nice and straight and make micro adjustments to it. Depending on what price you're paying for an instrument, I think truss rods are of value, but lots of different opinions on that. I won't get into it right now. But workmanship, yeah, really great. And, I found the tuners worked really well. They seemed to be really high quality, just nice and smooth, easy for micro adjustments. So everything is working really great. Also, just in terms of design, like the raised fingerboard, like I was saying, it's working really well for the instrument. They went far enough with it that it's working well. So workmanship is also really great. So one of the last things we'll talk about is the tone or sound quality of the instrument. But tone and sound quality, it's extremely subjective. It's based on personal preferences. A lot of people come into testing out a guitar with a whole bunch of preconceptions. People who play a lot of like double top guitars, they're going to be used to one type of sound. Maybe someone who's playing real old school traditional fan brace guitars are used to a different sound, and both are good, but it's extremely subjective in that way. Like I said before, though, we can talk about the performance of the instrument and its value. And I think in this particular case, due to the price especially, I think the guitar is doing really well. I like the tone. I'll say a little bit about it, but I think it's good. I like it. But it does have some specific characteristics, which I can talk about. So if you've played modern guitars like double tops or just any kind of design that emphasizes sound production, lots of sound production, and particularly in like a big and full-bodied sound that's quite open, instead of like tight and focused, a little bit more open. I think that this guitar leans in that direction. So quite warm and big and full-bodied sound, and quite open, so there's lots of reverberation and like just lots of sound production happening here, which can be really great. You know, that can be very forgiving to your tone quality, even on your bad nail day. You know, it can be warm, which is really great. In this particular guitar, because there's enough responsiveness in it, each string has a certain amount of definition. So that's a clarity in itself, right? When you have definition between the strings, you get pop out of each string. Then that's a type of clarity. Even though there might be lots of sound production, lots of reverberation happening, you get some definition in that way. It does lean a little bit towards the mid-range and the bass range, so it's a little heavy in that regard. I put a carbon third string on here. So this is a nylon set, but I put a carbon third on there just to kind of clean up that mid-range in the instrument. I thought that worked really well for me. Some students will probably just want to keep their nylon on there, but I really found that helped. Long story short, I like the tone of the guitar. I think it's doing really well for the price. But it is that open kind of modern sound that comes with a responsive sound producing instrument. So I think it's doing really well, good value for the price. But depending on what you're looking for from a guitar, you'll have to consider that point. And I think that you have to, with every instrument though, every instrument is going to lean in a certain direction. And you just want to kind of understand that a little bit. And for me, especially for my students, I often like having a guitar that produces a lot of sound because I think it's very forgiving and it allows them to develop a technique that where they're not pushing so hard and things like that. So I think that's really helpful. Some upper level players will be looking for a specific sound out of an instrument, and so they can consider these factors a little bit more. The quality of the sound itself also airs more towards like bell-like sounds. Like that's a really pretty pure like bell-like kind of sound to it. Less on the woody side. You know, some guitars can have that really like woody kind of character. Not dull, but in some ways like a dull woody character, which is nice though. But this is more on the bell-like side, I would say. Even on the basses to some extent. So that's like again a subjective characteristic of the sound. So that is the Saers Guitar A90 classical guitar from their Artist series, and a great value. I haven't seen many guitars at this price range with all of these features, as well as a responsiveness and playability that comes along with it. So do I think it's a good value? Yes, I do, and I'm really happy to add it to my collection of instruments that I will continue to use. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to, in a few weeks, I'm going to play some more pieces on this instrument so you can hear it and just get a little bit more out of it. So that's the Saers A90.